Today's video is all about showing emotion to get the right reaction from the audience. Sounds simple, but there's so many complexities involved that I think this is a topic definitely worth breaking down. Showing emotion through body language and facial expression is probably one of the most important things in professional wrestling. If you can pull off a cool spot or sequence, you get the appreciative clap, but if you really want to attain that end goal of emotional investment, you have to get the crowd feeling something. Unfortunately, it's not just as easy as being happy or sad, angry or excited. There is much more when you really break it down. You can show an appropriate emotion to an action, but if we've seen it a million times before, if we've seen it on the same card or even in the same match, it's not going to mean as much. It's all going to become cliche. In the same way that if we see the same moves performed over and over in the same match or on the same card, they're not going to get the same reaction. How many times have you seen someone kick out at one only to get crickets from the audience? What do you do if that same emotion has already been shown before? It doesn't mean you can't show it. If it's appropriate, it makes sense, it should be there. But it's about changing the level of emotion and showing that contrast, showing that this match, which is a serious main event with more stakes behind it, with a serious feud behind it, showing that this match elicits a greater amount, a greater range of emotion, will elicit a better reaction. But if your match is second on the card and it's a 5-minute filler with no backstory, then it's probably not worth showing that same amount of emotion because it doesn't make sense and it's not going to help the other matches on the card that need it more. In the same vein, showing a contrast can often emphasize and place greater importance on that emotion. Showing that the heel is emoting in one way and the babyface is emoting in a complete opposite way can often make them both really stand out. When I was researching the topic, I found something called the emotion wheel, which was all about the opposites in emotion. The opposite to sadness was joy. The opposite to anger was fear. Expectation, surprise. A good way to manipulate this in your own work is perhaps having the heel and the babyface show these different ranges of emotions, where the heel might show frustration or anger, and the babyface might show extreme excitement, joy, resilience, things that are on the opposite sides of the spectrum. The emotions can and should also intensify or become milder depending on the action in the ring. You shouldn't go from 0 to 100 because it doesn't make sense. When you go too far, it no longer becomes real. The crowd has nothing to follow along with. But if the crowd can sense that a heel is becoming more frustrated, and they can follow along with that frustration until it becomes a point of extreme anger, now we're talking. When you hit those ceilings of emotion, you've got nowhere to go, so save it for the appropriate time and place. This also sparks memory of an interview that William Regal did, and he spoke about cutting promos in front of a mirror where you show a range of emotions. You might do the same promo showing happiness, and then you might do it with sadness and anger and frustration and surprise and disappointment and whatever else you can come up with, and then try to go in and out during the promo. I think some of the best promos in history had a range of emotions throughout the 1 to 2 minutes. It suckered you in. As I said before, when everything is one level, it all becomes white noise. So show those contrasts, use them appropriately, and let them build organically. Mostly though, don't be afraid to show your emotion. Being vulnerable is an extremely important part of being a professional wrestler. And if you struggle to really feel it on the inside, look to the real world for some inspiration. Thanks for watching this week's episode. Of course, if you have any questions, comments, or anything else to add to the mix, please drop it in the comments box below. Of course, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell, and I will see you next week for another episode of World-Beater Wrestling.
If you want to see more videos like this, click on the subscribe button, spread the word, and if you have any questions or requests for World-Beater Wrestling, don't be afraid to comment below.